Dusit D2 has come to an end. We're in phase 2, where the police are now carrying out investigations and trying to piece together the events of that fateful Tuesday morning. Now, Kenyans followed the events with bated breath on that day. And they're also now in phase 2, which is trying to process what happened, trying to deal with the aftermath, our emotions and our state and frame of mind. And so tonight, our explainer, we thought it best to bring in an expert. Speaking now to Dr. Lukoye Atwoli, who is a noted psychiatrist in the country, as well as the Dean of the School of Medicine at Moi University, Eldoret. And he joins me now to talk to us about just how we will deal with the aftermath of the events this Tuesday. Dr. Hari, thanks for speaking with us tonight. Let's start by asking how we can help those who've been directly affected in this attack. There's also those who were involved in one way or another in the rescue operations, as well as their families and friends.
Yeah, so this incident, this terror attack has affected a large number of people, including those that were already in the building, as well as those who are related to them, or those who saw the events happening on TV or heard about it. And so interventions to assist people often depend on the nature of their involvement. The first and most important thing to point out is that majority of the people who went through this terror event will come out all right. Most people will not come out with any pathology. In fact, some people will find meaning in this event and will come out stronger and feeling like they are better persons for having experienced this, however strange this may sound. So for the majority of the people, what they need is the support of the people close to them. They need somebody to be around them, and they need the availability of services when this comes up. So if somebody needs to talk, they should be able to talk to a friend or a relative who's close to them, and therefore our role is to provide a listening ear or a shoulder to lean on for a person who has survived an incident like this. In a minority of the people, the reaction might become severe and they might need more professional services. And these are the people who might be linked to counseling services or to psychological services so that they have somebody who will listen to them and address specific problems that are causing distress. In an even smaller minority, it might trigger more severe symptoms of other problems, psychological problems that might have been incipient or developing, and this event might be the trigger, and these ones might need access to clinical services. For the responders, including the police, the Red Cross people, and organized groups that organized a response to this terror, the organization that puts them together needs to have services available for what we call debriefing. So at the end of every day of activity, they're supposed to meet and discuss what they went through, how they felt, and how they dealt with, and what are the emotions that are remaining that might need to be dealt with. So this process of debriefing is very useful for organized groups or specialists or experts in response. But for the general public, what is really required is the understanding that a lot of the things we are going through right now are normal responses to an abnormal situation.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I want to get into, because Dr. Hari, our national psyche in one way or another has been jolted. We're jittery, we're apprehensive, we're angry. So how do we now deal with the other Kenyans who are watching and who experience this, albeit from afar, but they have been part of this entire experience? How do we help them heal, and what are some of the reactions they may have? And is it normal for a number of us to feel scared at this point? And how do we deal with that?
Yeah, I think it is normal and it is human for us to feel scared. It is, in fact, the correct reaction, the expected reaction after an incident like this is that we will feel like our security has been shaken, our security has been breached, things are not the same anymore, and feeling vulnerable and so on. This is normal. And I think the most important thing for all of us to acknowledge is that these are feelings that are expected after a terrible event of this nature. In fact, what I would worry about is a person who goes through this experience and remains calm even afterwards, and does not experience these feelings of terror, does not experience these feelings of fear, does not experience these feelings of despondency, I would follow up this person for a bit of time to see how they are coping afterwards. But for a person who gets these feelings, I would explain to them that this is normal. The vast majority of the people who are experiencing them, these feelings will morph into a memory that can then be safely stored in our mind that reminds us of the event without the distress. So anybody feeling, terrified, anybody feeling afraid, anybody feeling like the security is not as it used to be, this is a normal response to an abnormal situation. Absolutely. And it is expected. It will take a few days to a few weeks, and it will pass.
And it will pass. A lot of people are talking about the sort of conversations to have in their families. What do you tell your children when they ask you, what happened? How do you explain what happened and how they feel at this point?
Yeah. So the first thing is to acknowledge that truth is very important. Do not lie about what happened. So what we need to do is to tell what happened and infuse our own values as families into the narrative in a manner that is appropriate to the age of the children that are asking about it. So if a child who's 2 or 3 years asks you what happened, you could tell them that yes, some bad guys went into a building and attacked people, but then the police and the security forces have responded and dealt with it, and everything is okay. An older child might want to know who are these bad guys and why did they do this, and that is an opportunity to discuss evil in the world. It's an opportunity to discuss why bad things happen from your point of view, and eventually to reassure them that no matter what, the bad people in the world are fewer than the normal human beings going about their life as usual. And therefore that at the end of the day, we are more likely to be secure than to be insecure. And that these attacks are less common than might appear because of the TV reports and so on. And so for me, any event of this nature is an opportunity to discuss the family's worldview and how they deal with terrifying things, how they deal with disappointment, how they deal with failure, and how they come out of it stronger, and how they plan to, address the feelings that come out of it.
All right.
Another important thing to discuss with children and family is the feelings. Focusing on the fact that you're scared, focusing on the fact that you're afraid, because many of us do not have words to describe this. Yeah. And this is an opportune moment to help our children to learn that you can put these feelings into words and therefore make them things that we can deal with.
Right, right. Absolutely important.
Yeah.
I want to conclude with one very important space that we are dealing with, and that is social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a number of those out there. We are understandably angry because that's another emotion that we're feeling. And it's hard to sort of direct our anger because we're dealing with a faceless enemy, so to speak. And some of the conversations that you're seeing on social media, some are expressive in the way they should be, others are seeking blame. So talk to us about what we should be saying in those spaces, including what's happening on WhatsApp with all the forwards that we're seeing.
Yeah. So it is important to allow people to express themselves. It is normal to be angry. What is more useful is to find meaning that frames the anger that we have. What are we angry about? We are angry that there is something beyond our control that has happened and people have been hurt, people have been killed. It is normal to be angry at that. So the danger is that this anger might start being directed at targets that might have nothing to do with this event. And so it is useful to keep at the forefront of all our discussions, why are we feeling the way we are feeling? Why are we angry? Are we angry at the government for failing to prevent this? Are we angry at the terrorists for doing what they have done? Are we angry at ourselves for feeling the way we are feeling? So it is important for us to discuss the reasons behind these feelings, but at the forefront of it, to understand that we are feeling the way we are feeling because something has happened and it is out of our control and it challenges our worldview of security, of safety, and so on. So it is okay for people to express themselves freely, but then to remember that the reason why they are feeling the way they are feeling is because of this thing that has happened, and the fact that they are not in control of it.
All right. And of course, the government is saying don't forward. We've seen the videos, we've seen that sort of thing. And their reason is valid to some extent about spreading the propaganda of those that would like to do this. But what effect does that have on forwarding all of these pictures? Because in the circles in which we are, we don't know the effect that it has.
So we have learned that a lot of these pictures being forwarded and so on would have a negative effect on many of the people who survived this event. The pictures stay on the internet, and the internet never forgets. And so what that happens is that it interferes with healing in at least some of the people who might be attempting to deal with these issues. But looking at the videos, looking at the pictures, triggers memories, triggers this event, makes it look as if it is constantly in the memory. So it is not a useful thing to do. You could talk about this event without showing gory pictures or videos and so on. We could still pass the message and discuss the meaning of it without having to see it. We know people have died. We know people have been shot. We know how people who have been shot look like. We don't have to keep being reminded on and on and on. So it is a good idea to discourage people from circulating and sharing these gory images. But then any attempt to officially clamp down on that would have a counterproductive effect, because people would start circulating them even more, asking what is this that we are being prevented from doing. I would prefer a more organic, a more natural process where Kenyans begin to understand their role in hurting other people by circulating information of that nature, and then making conscious decisions that we will not do it ourselves. And I will point out that in this incident, Kenyans have behaved in an exemplary fashion compared to how we behaved during Westgate, compared to how we behaved during post-election violence. These people have been more responsible. People have been more careful in circulating certain information. And I think we are maturing as a society in that nature. The backlash against the New York Times for splashing images of dead people on the internet is instructive. To both the international media and to Kenyan media, that we have to start thinking more carefully about the lives of the people of this country. And that when people die, to recognize that these lives are precious and that their deaths mean something to many people. And so we have behaved in an exemplary fashion in my view.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lukoye Atwoli, who's a noted psychiatrist in the country and is the Dean of the School of Medicine at Moi University in Eldoret. Also, the Vice President of the Kenya Medical Association. Thank you very much for speaking with us here tonight.